Contend that it's almost impossible for Americans to eat healthy today. And why would I say something like that? Labels are the guidelines by which we have to choose healthy foods. If the guidelines on these labels are misleading and deceitful, how can Americans ever eat healthy food? See, a big problem with having so many deceptive labels out is it causes a lot of people to become somewhat delusional. There's nothing worse than thinking you're doing the right thing only to find out you weren't, only because the labels that you were using were misleading and deceitful. So how many of you would like to reduce the calories in your food, reduce, let's say, maybe the fat, and would go out and eat something like lean ground turkey, and clearly it tells you that it's 7% fat? You know, 7% fat is way under the 20 that I would ascribe to. A lot of Americans try to eat 30 or 40% fat. I'd say keep it under 20. And clearly, that 7% right there on the label tells you that it's a low-fat food. When I turn the label over and I ask almost everybody, can you tell me what the real percentage of fat of this food is? Almost nobody can do it. Do you know that in America, no company by law has to put the actual real percentage of fat on a label? They don't have to do it, so they don't do it. Now, when we look at the back of this label, we can see that the calories are 160 and the grams of fat are 8. One thing I'm going to need you to memorize is this simple formula. Grams of fat times 9 divided by the calories equals the percentage of fat. The reason why we multiply the grams of fat times 9 is because 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. So if the grams of fat are 8, 8 times 9 is 72. 72 divided by 160 is literally 45% fat. Do you understand that this food that's labeled lean and claims to be 7% fat is actually 45% fat? In other words, this ground turkey has the exact same percentage of fat as T-bone steak. In other words, if you wouldn't eat T-bone steak to drop body fat, why on earth would you eat this turkey expecting a different outcome when in regards to their fat, they're equivalent? I'm going to walk you through a couple things you need to understand. When you see this percentage of fat on the label, it refers to the product's fat by weight, not its fat by calories, and those are two completely different things. But do you understand companies deliberately put a low percentage of fat on the label to convince you to buy it? That's a high-fat food labeled as a low-fat food. And so the word lean simply means that it has under 10 grams of fat in a serving. And as we just saw, this food has under 10 grams of fat in a serving, but it's a high-fat food. So if you're just looking at grams of fat, you're missing the whole boat. We really need to look at the percentage, and my question becomes this. Why wouldn't the company just put the actual percentage of fat on the label? It's because they don't want you to know it. Now, notice something. When you look at this label here, they didn't even bother to tell you what they ground up because they don't have to. This could be the thigh meat or wing meat. It could be the scrap meat. You'll never know, okay? What you have to look at, don't look at the words like extra lean and all that stuff. You have to look for the word breast within the title of the product. If it doesn't say the word breast, it's not. Okay, so you're probably getting scammed. But the most important thing to do, once again, is to go to the back, look at the label. In this case, 1.5 times 9 is 13. 13 divided into the 120 is 11% fat. And that's a great food to me because it's under 20%. So if I'm gonna make turkey burgers, turkey meatloaf, turkey chili, I wanna be making it out of this because it says breast, not because it says extra lean. Because the word extra lean simply means by law that it has 5 grams of fat or less in a serving. And as you're going to see, there are a lot of foods that have less than 5 grams of fat that are phenomenally high-fat foods. Now, check this out. Okay, all of them are the same brand, but suddenly notice this one's telling me it's made from all white meat. Now, because it has above 10 grams of fat, it can't use the word lean. Because it isn't as low as 5 grams of fat or less, it can't use the term extra lean. So this tells you right now, this is even higher in fat than the 45% because it can't use any one of those terms. The term all white meat, you do realize the wing meat is white, right? And you realize the wing meat and the thigh meat are 58% fat. They're higher in fat even than most cuts of red meat. So if you're eating the thigh meat and wing meat of poultry, you're eating just as high in fat as beef. You might as well be eating the beef. So when you see the word lean and 7%, you have to wonder, how did those words come to be, right? It's because lobbyists in Washington are paid a vast amount of money to protect the interest of the companies they represent over yours and my health. And I see that as just criminal. These are high-fat foods being allowed to be marketed as low-fat foods, and I find that to be very misleading and highly deceitful.
I also saw Dr. Roxanne Edrington,